Imagine standing in the frozen heart of Ice Age Europe, your breath turning to mist in the bitter wind. In the distance, something moves. A figure, shorter than you, but broader. Their frame radiates power barrel-chested, thick-limbed, dense with muscle. Their face is striking deep eyes under a heavy brow, scanning the world with quiet intelligence. This isn't a beast. It's not your enemy. It's your cousin, a Neanderthal. And for the last century and a half, we've told their story completely wrong. When the first Neanderthal bones were unearthed in a German cave in 1856, the world didn't marvel at the discovery. We mocked it, called them dim-witted cavemen, grunting primitives who failed at evolution's game, told ourselves they were replaced by a U.S. superior, smarter, more civilized Homo sapiens. That narrative made us feel special, but it was a lie. A comforting myth built on ignorance. As science has advanced, that myth has started to crumble. What we've uncovered instead is a story far more complex and far more human. Neanderthals weren't slow or stupid. They were survivors, masters of adaptation. Their very bodies were forged by evolution to endure a world that would have killed us. The average Neanderthal stood just 5 feet 6 inches tall, but weighed nearly 180 pounds dense with muscle and bone. They weren't bulky by accident. Their short limbs and broad torsos were specialized adaptations to conserve heat in the sub-zero conditions of Ice Age Europe. Their skeletons weren't built for speed. They were built for impact, for strength, for survival in a world of predators, avalanches, and bitter cold. Their faces were just as unique. Those flared nostrils, not for intimidation. They acted as built-in climate control systems, warming and moistening cold air before it reached the lungs. Their massive brow ridges and enlarged eye sockets housed eyes that were significantly larger than ours, designed to absorb every bit of light during long, dark winters. They could see in dim conditions where we'd be nearly blind. Every inch of their design had a purpose. They were not mistakes of nature. They were masterpieces. Even their brains, once assumed to be smaller, were in fact comparable in size to ours, sometimes even larger. But here's where it gets fascinating. Their brain wasn't just big, it was differently wired. Research from Oxford and other institutions shows that Neanderthals devoted more brain matter to visual processing and body control. They were attuned to their environment in a way we can only imagine. While we evolved for language and social complexity, they evolved to conquer the physical world, tracking prey, navigating terrain, surviving where no one else could. It wasn't lesser intelligence, it was different intelligence. Practical, grounded, unforgivingly real. Want proof of how resilient they were? Look at their bones. Nearly every Neanderthal skeleton ever discovered carries the scars of trauma-healed fractures, crushed skulls, broken ribs, and yet they lived. They survived brutal injuries that would kill modern humans today. One study even compared their injuries to those of rodeo riders, constantly thrown, stomped, battered, and still getting back up. They didn't just take damage, they recovered from it, again and again. But here's what no one expected. They didn't do it alone. It's in Iraq's Shanidar cave. Archaeologists found a skeleton known as Shanidar 1. This Neanderthal male had suffered a lifetime of injuries: a smashed eye socket that left him blind, a shriveled and likely paralyzed right arm, a damaged leg, and advanced arthritis. He was unable to hunt, likely unable to walk. And yet, he lived into his 40-old age for that time. How? Because someone cared for him. Someone fed him, kept him warm, protected him. In a world without hospitals, medicine, or governments, this man was kept alive by love. Dr. Penny Spikins, of the University of York, who has studied Neanderthal healthcare, believes this care wasn't transactional. It wasn't survival of the fittest, it was compassion. Neanderthals weren't emotionless beasts, they were empathetic. They valued each other. They weren't just strong in body, they were strong in heart. And their healthcare wasn't primitive either. Examination of their teeth shows they used toothpicks for hygiene. Fossilized plaque reveals they chewed on poplar bark, which contains salicylic acid, the main ingredient in aspirin. They didn't just endure pain, they treated it. They practiced medicine in its earliest, most human form. But what about language? Could they speak? For decades, scientists believed Neanderthals lacked the vocal anatomy for speech. But newer research has rewritten that theory. Their hyoid bones, vocal tracts, and ear structures were nearly identical to ours. Their hearing range was tuned for recognizing human speech frequencies. And the final, irrefutable evidence: they had children with us. Modern humans and Neanderthals interbred for thousands of years. Sustained relationships require communication, connection, understanding. They didn't grunt, they talked. Still, we once believed they lacked culture, no art, no symbolism, no imagination. But that illusion shattered too. In Croatia, Neanderthals crafted ornaments from eagle talons over 130,000 years ago. In Spain, they painted on cave walls with red ochre pigments, leaving behind hand stencils in geometric shapes at least 65,000 years old. In other sites, they strung perforated shells into necklaces, stained with vibrant pigments. These weren't random acts, these were choices. Expressions of identity, community, and beauty. Long before Homo sapiens set foot in Europe, Neanderthals were already telling stories in color. Then came one of the most groundbreaking discoveries of all: birch tar. It's found on tools across Neanderthal sites. This black, sticky substance is the world's first known industrial product. But making it isn't simple. It requires heating birch bark in an oxygen-free environment at just the right temperature. Too hot it burns, too cold it fails, yet Neanderthals mastered it. They engineered complex hearths for this process. They weren't lucky. They were deliberate. This was chemistry. This was technology. So what happened? They were so advanced, so strong, so smart, so caring. Why? Did they disappear? Here's the twist. They didn't. In 2010, geneticists sequenced the Neanderthal genome and made a discovery that stunned the world. Non-African humans today carry between 1% and 2% Neanderthal DNA. Interbreeding wasn't a fluke. It lasted over 7,000 years, starting around 50,000 years ago. This wasn't just a one-time encounter. It was a long chapter of shared history. A merging of lineages. Those genes didn't just passively hang around, they shaped us. Neanderthal DNA influences our immune systems, skin pigmentation, even how we respond to stress and disease. Some of our strengths, our very survival advantages, come from them. Even people in sub-Saharan Africa, once thought to have no Neanderthal ancestry, carry traces likely through back migrations of mixed populations. Their blood runs through billions of people today. But as a distinct culture, they did fade. Around 40,000 years ago, their presence in the archaeological record disappears. Why? The reasons are complex. Climate change shifted their environment faster than they could adapt. Modern humans may have outcompeted them for resources. Smaller Neanderthal social networks made them vulnerable to disease and collapse. One Neanderthal, named Thorin, discovered in France's Rhine Valley, had been genetically isolated for over 50,000 years, even though other groups lived just 2 weeks' walk away. It's a haunting image. A people, scattered, isolated, slowly fading into the past, not because they were weak, but because the world changed too fast. Still, calling it extinction misses the truth. They didn't vanish. They became part of us. Their strength is in our bones. Their resilience is in our blood. Compassion is in our hearts. Every time you shiver in the cold, but endure. Thank your Neanderthal genes. Every time your immune system fights off a virus, remember their legacy. Every time you care for someone who can't care for themselves, know you are continuing a tradition that began long before civilization. They weren't monsters in caves. They were people. They had families, languages, culture, love, and they are still here. Inside you, inside me, inside all of us. We thought they were evolutionary failures. But the truth is, they were extraordinary. They were our cousins, our collaborators, our ancestors. So the next time you hear the word Neanderthal used as an insult, correct them. Tell them the truth. Because when you look in the mirror, you may be looking at someone who wouldn't exist without them. And that is the legacy of the greatest survivors we almost forgot.